In order to apply to become a foster parent, you need to have a spare bedroom, you need to be over the age of 21, and you need to be eligible to work in the UK. Those are the absolute minimum criteria. There are lots and lots of other things that you need to think about. Do you have the time, the space, and the ability to fully commit to a child or young person who will be placed with you? You need to be able to pick them up from school, drop them off. You need to be available during the school holidays, take them to contact. You also need to be available to attend meetings and training as part of being a foster carer. So although there are very basic minimums, there are lots of things that can crop up during an assessment, which might mean that we have to say to you, it's not quite the right thing for you at the moment. Come back to us in a couple of years, maybe when your birth children don't need as much of your attention, or your work circumstances have changed, or you've got a bigger house. So it's not a no, it's a not now. We have foster carers from all different walks of life and many different backgrounds. So we most definitely do have foster carers already approved with us from the LGBTQ community. We currently have children and young people who are being supported with gender and sexual identity by their foster carers. So the more varied backgrounds that we have of our foster carers, the better we are able to support these children and young people.
Yes, you can foster if you're single. You don't have to be a single parent either. You can just be single without any children. We have some brilliant foster carers that are single parents, and it's just really making sure that you have a really good support network around you of friends and family that can support you emotionally and practically when needed. Yes, you can foster if you're disabled. What it would be is we would do a medical as part of your assessment. Depending on the level of your disability, we'd need to make sure that you are able to look after a child, and that any medical needs that you have wouldn't affect the child in care with you. We do have foster carers that are disabled, and we have foster carers that have mobility issues. It may be that we change certain criteria when you're approved, but it's definitely worth still getting in touch, because we might be able to help you, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it will stop you from fostering. Potentially, yes, you can still foster if you are disabled. We have some amazing foster carers that are disabled. The assessment would do a medical check for you, and that medical check would be really important on making sure that you are suitable to foster. Not only that your disability wouldn't be impacted by a child, but also that the child wouldn't be impacted by your disability. Also, there are mental disabilities as well that you might have or have had in the past. That is something that we can discuss when you speak to us initially. We would just want to make sure that any counselling or any medication that you were on was stable, and just make sure that fostering was right for you at this time.
This is one of my most common questions I actually have, because most people that inquire with us have no idea whether they can work. They think, can I work this amount of hours? Will that work? If I cut down work, what will happen? It's quite a minefield. It's quite a grey area. It does depend on individual basis. It depends on what you do for a living, because essentially fostering in itself is a full-time job. It's 24 hours a day, it's 7 days a week, and it does consume a lot of your time, whether it be with the child, whether it be taking that child to and from school, whether it be attending a PEP meeting at school, a contact meeting with a birth parent. A lot of your time would be taken up fostering, and essentially you need to have that time, that space, and that energy to be able to give all you can as a foster carer. So essentially other employment needs to be really flexible to fit around those situations. You need to also think about school holidays that you need to be around for as well, but also often, you need to think about the kinds of unpredictable situations you might get with a looked after child. Potentially they might be struggling to go to school, so you might be trying to get them into school 3-4 days. You might be struggling to get them into school 3-4 days a week, so you need to be prepared for the fact that you might not be able to log on at work at 9, and it could be you're not logging on until the afternoon. So you just need to essentially understand if you can fit work around those kind of situations, then it's fine to continue working, but it might be that your work just doesn't fit with fostering, and therefore you might have to cut down your hours or give up work altogether. Fostering People is not a faith-based fostering agency, but we do have a real mix of carers that inquire with Fostering People from all different religious backgrounds, and we very much value your religious beliefs when you do inquire with us, and we're very much an inclusive fostering agency. With that in mind, we would expect you to be just as open with a child from a different religious background to you. So with that in mind, you might have a child that might follow a different religion to yourself, but with that in mind, you don't have to necessarily conform to their religion, as long as you're happy and open to potentially drop them off at the mosque, drop them off at church, drop them off at the synagogue, but you are in no way expected to conform to those religions, as long as you're open to taking a child from a different background or from a different religion that you may not necessarily follow. Yes, this is a question, again, I get quite a bit. I've had probably most pets given to me, from Gary the Great Dane to Pippa the duck to Harry the hamster. I've had pretty much every pet I think I could imagine said to me in the very first stages. Most pets are absolutely fine. What we always do in the assessment stage is we complete a risk assessment around every pet in the home, just to make sure they are safe and suitable to be around a looked after child. So we would assess behaviours, the amount of pets you have, the size of the pets they have, alongside with the size of the property as well. Obviously, any dangerous breeds of dog, for example, that wouldn't be acceptable and suitable to foster. But most pets do fly through the assessment with flying colours, so it's never usually a problem. With it as well, we do also match very carefully children with pets. Obviously, if a certain child had an allergy to your pet, then obviously we wouldn't match that child with you, or if they were extremely frightened of a certain pet that you might have, then we wouldn't match that child as well. But most pets are absolutely fine when fostering. The minimum age to become a foster parent is age 21, which is very young. We tend to get carers through that are usually 25 plus upwards, and that's often because applicants under 25 are still studying, still finding their career path, and we don't tend to take carers under the age of 25 unless there's a lot of experience behind you, whether that be in a childcare setting, whether that be you come from a foster family, or you've worked with children that have maybe additional needs, then you would be considered. But we tend to say 25 plus is the age group we're looking for, really. There's no age limit to foster. You can be, in your 50s, 60s, 70s. We often do have carers that come through to us once they've retired, for example. We would just make sure you've got the energy and the time to foster, but there is no age cap, as it were. But yeah, making sure that you've got that experience behind you, particularly when you're a younger carer is really what we're looking for. But again, we have some children that match much better with older carers, and then we have some children that match much better with younger carers. So it really, again, depends on the matching process.